in life. I was 10 years old when my teacher yelled at me in front of the classroom in Mandarin, simply because I missed 2 marks to an A in an exam. I grew up in a small town in Johor, and I had a really wonderful childhood. Both of my parents, they were English educated, and my love for English language and reading came from both of them. And I can still remember there was a time that I hopped on the motorcycle with my dad, and we went strolling around to a village near the Moor Riverbank. And I was a curious little boy, and I witnessed the migration of the migratory birds by the Moor Riverbank, and witnessing the sunset. And I was really young, and I pointed at the birds, and I said, "Daddy, Daddy, I want to be like the birds. I want to fly as high as the birds." And my father looked at me in the eyes and said, "Boy, you can fly as high as you want." And I looked at him in the eyes. A man, statistically classified as from the bottom 40%, every day relentlessly working hard to provide for me and my family, with the hope to see us happy in our unique life path. But that is all thrown out from the window when my teacher's words were like samurai sword slashed through my heart. And at that very moment, I felt useless. And I grew up feeling stupid in my schooling days, thinking that I'm not going to make it in life. From a very bubbly, very cheerful person that I am, at that point I turned off internally. I was really afraid to express my ideas, even though I had a lot. Simply because I'm afraid of the disapproval that might come from other people. And that has haunted me all these years. And going to school was an agony. People were judging me. And I hated school. But one fine day, I believe it is by God's divine intervention. I was rushing out from the school gate, can't wait to get out from school. I saw an eagle flying across the schoolyard, soaring high above. And at that moment, the word from my dad struck me, that I can fly as high as I want. I can't change what has happened to me, but what I can control is how I react to what has happened to me. And I worked hard, and I saw straight A, and then I went to my teacher's face and said, "Yes, in your face. I made it." Who says I cannot make it? But is it really? Our education culture has been fixated so much on qualifications and exams. And oftentimes, we were told to score good grades, to attain high qualification if you are able to get a good job and eventually be happy. And that particular narrative has been embedded into many of us Asian families' culture and has shaped and molded our definition for education and success. But guys, education is way beyond that. Simply because of our over-fixation on exams and qualification, it has caused us to lose sight of the appreciation towards education as a learning process for growth and a process to build our character. So I could still remember a time my family and I visited Langkawi, and I visited a glass blowing factory. It's not a very touristy place to visit in Langkawi because people usually go to the Eagle and things like that. But then it was a very memorable one. I was so intrigued to see how from that solid molten glass, and with bits and pieces of color palettes, can turn into beautiful crafts like this. And what the glass master blower told me was that what you need to control is the process. Some you add in one color palette, some you blow in harder, some you shape it differently. But what you can control is the process. That's me. So that's the process of puberty, and it's become like this. So At that moment, I had that aha moment that oftentimes we forgot to appreciate the process. And there's this famous quote that goes, to never let schooling interfere with your education. Simply because we are so obsessed with our grades, with our exam. And we forgot that there is a big world out there for you to go and explore and experience and interact with. And you can take control of what it takes to make you into a better person. But first, you need to understand the process that is involved when you are pursuing your education and what education has effect on you and your life. Education is not about scoring marvelous A's on your hardcover report card, but it's a process of building character. Okay, I'm not talking about SPM, you have to memorize all the moral values and then you have to formulate it out in an exam, automatically your character is built. But it's the experiences from the interaction with the people and the subject around you and how those experiences affect your value compass. So do you still remember the remark from my teacher saying that I can't make it in life? It was actually through that incident I became a stronger person. I was prepared to face even worse scenario ahead of time. But often in times we take that negatively. But at that moment, I took charge of the process. I told myself that I can fly as high as I want. And I worked really hard and I told the teacher in your face. But many of us, we forgot that process. And education is a very complex and very dynamic, very diverse process. Very human process. It's not about what is on the paper, all dry and rigid. And often in times we are told to find correct answers to the question. And there is only one answer in the answer scheme. And often in times, we students, very lazy, we refer to the answer scheme for the answers. But then when we make mistakes, our first response is to penalize it. And that particular syndrome actually creeps into our daily life. That whenever we face mistake or failure, we do not know how to respond to it. We simply penalize it or shun away from it. Many of us fail to see that failures and adversity is actually a necessary process to help us to become a stronger individual and to help us to identify the rights from the wrongs. So how do we learn to appreciate this particular process of education that we are pursuing? So the first thing to do is start by taking a step back and look into the broader picture and understand the purpose of education. Education is not which university you go to, which major you're taking up, how marvelous and glorious your A's are, but it's how the environment of that institution, the specialization that you are taking, can bring in and add value to your experience as an individual, and eventually you going out there, creating a positive value to the community. And remember this, you may be highly educated, but you are not educated, and that piece of education is useless. If that education that you are pursuing is not building your character, and it's not giving you a sense of purpose. So as I finished my primary school in Moa, elite school, got my straight A's and whatever that people wanted to see, the natural thing to do is to sign up to a premier secondary school. So that's what I did. And when I stepped into secondary school, it was like a blood war. People were competing, I do not know for what. I could only remember this. People were asking for more homework, and people were participating in co-curricular activities like crazy. And I was standing there right beside them and saying, hey, what are you guys doing? You guys competing or whatever. So people were running towards that to differentiate themselves from the others without understanding the purpose of education, in building them into a better person, but simply for the sake of having a more beautiful resume and more beautiful paper to present them. And soon I realized in that environment, it was too toxic for me. I know that, if I continue to stay in that environment, I couldn't grow. And I would lose sight of what I can achieve. So at age 16, I made a big transition. I moved 194 kilometers away from home to east coast of Johor, to a boarding school in Mersing. And it was a crazy decision. Living home away from my family was tough. I was really close with my family and they were my core support. But then it was in Mersing that I discovered that this is a necessary process for me to grow. I need to get uncomfortable. I need to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And there's this really weird habit that my teachers they love to do in the boarding school, is that they love to challenge a student. And I was a very shy person when I was in school, because I grew up feeling that I was stupid, that I'm not going to do anything. And my teacher challenged me to participate in the debate team. And he was asking a piece of flesh from me, by the way, to speak in front of people. And I could still remember my first speech was only 30 seconds long. That was how many minutes already, I don't know. It's 30 seconds long. But then, I was all embarrassed, of course. And my teacher looked at me in the eyes again, and she said, "Kelvin, you have the potential. Take charge of what is inside." And time was my best friend at that moment. So patiently, I practiced, I worked really hard. People were laughing at me. I was practicing in front of the car park. People were laughing at me. People were saying, "What sort of crazy things are you doing? Why are you speaking in front of the car park?" I said, "Well, I'm practicing my voice projection and everything." And after a tiresome process, and today I'm standing in front of you guys, it was in Mersing that I discovered the satisfaction of achieving what people told me that I couldn't. And in this moment, in this period of time, you will go through very difficult times. It's not an easy pathway. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 plus infinity equals infinity. There are many unexpected things that happen. You will fail, you will fall, people will laugh at you, people will say that you are useless, people will say that you are young, people will say that you are too young to do whatever that you can do. But always remember, what we can take away from all those processes is how we respond to it. And many of us were trapped in that vicious cycle of education, where we follow the natural progression that society has set for us. Or in other words, we follow the flow lah. We follow the flow. We finish primary school, secondary school, university, and then we work, and then that's it. But I implore you to look into education beyond the academic development side of things, but to appreciate education as a form of development that is constantly growing, constantly developing, non-stop. Be it you're in school, you're in uni, wherever you are. Just like the masterclass flower who told me, what you need to do is to take control of the process. And that molten sand has to go through a furnace, has to go through different processes to become a masterpiece. And you are a masterpiece. Thank you.